The girl obsessed with looks was moved by her suitor's affection and overlooked his unattractive appearance. She agreed to date the boy. However, unbeknownst to her, the unattractive boyfriend's pursuit was merely to sleep with her. Bunny had always been obsessed with good looks. Whenever she saw a handsome guy, her heart would race and she couldn't look away. In college, she chose to study sculpture to create her ideal handsome man in the form of sculptures. She thought she would date a very handsome guy. However, when she introduced her boyfriend to her friends, they were shocked because her boyfriend, Bong-soo, looked like a short clown with an unimpressive body and face. Her friends couldn't understand Bunny's choice, but she was caught up in the sweet pursuit by Bong-soo. He would give her drinks with confessions of love and kneel to confess his feelings in the classroom. Over time, Bong-soo's persistent presence and public confessions moved Bunny. For the first time, she felt that the intention mattered more than looks, especially since she considered herself average and thought handsome guys wouldn't like her. One day, as Bunny entered the school, Bong-soo was about to give her a pearl necklace, which was aesthetically unusual. As he was putting it on, he was accidentally bumped by a skateboarder, causing the necklace to fall. Bunny held back Bong-soo, who was trying to confront the skateboarder, and changed the topic by saying she liked the necklace. After class, she called Bong-soo, who was in the broadcasting room reading comics. He saw her call but deliberately ignored it. Bunny thought he was busy. The next moment, Bong-soo's voice came over the broadcast, bragging to friends about planning a trip with Bunny. He revealed that he had spent a lot of effort to catch Bunny, admitting that his pursuit had always been about sleeping with her. He had thought it would be quick, but Bunny had maintained her reserve. This time, he planned to get her drunk and proceed with his plan. The entire school heard the broadcast. Imagining Bong-soo mocking her in front of his friends, Bunny angrily stormed into the broadcasting room. Just then, Bong-soo's roommate arrived and realized his phone had accidentally connected to the broadcast, airing their conversation live. Bong-soo quickly ran out, knelt before Bunny, and begged for forgiveness, claiming he had only boasted to impress his friends. Bunny saw through his true character, kicked him, and called him a jerk. As the onlookers murmured, Bong-soo felt humiliated and dropped his pretense, accusing Bunny of also wanting to sleep with him yet pretending to be virtuous. He complained about how he had demeaned himself by being with her. Unable to tolerate more, Bunny punched him, sending him flying backward. She warned him to never show his face to her again. After venting her anger, she tore off the pearl necklace and walked away coolly. Unnoticed by her, two handsome men in the crowd admired her actions. Cha Ji-won, a returning student from the sculpture department, and Hwang Jae-yeol from the design department. Two friends comforted the hurt Bunny, and after some reflection, she made a significant decision to only date handsome men. The next day, feeling embarrassed about the broadcast, Bunny became the center of gossip wherever she went. To escape, she announced she would take a leave of absence. Remembering how years ago she had wanted to transfer schools but changed her mind when a handsome neighbor moved in next door, her mother secretly hoped for a similar distraction this time. Her prayers were quickly answered. Holding her leave of absence form at school, Bunny accidentally met someone asking for directions. It was Cha Ji-won, the returning student. When she looked up and saw Cha Ji-won's face, it seemed as if everything around her paused. Images of a fantasy filled her mind, where Cha Ji-won was an angel from ancient Greece deeply in love with his frail, pale girlfriend who turned out to be her. Snapping out of her daydream, Bunny immediately tore up her leave of absence form and took Cha Ji-won to the library. Assuming he was a freshman because he was holding books from the sculpture department, she enthusiastically gave him her phone number, telling him she was the department representative and he could contact her for anything. After saying goodbye to Cha Ji-won, a joyful Bunny bounced down the street, only to stop in her tracks upon seeing another handsome guy approaching. It was Hwang Jae-yeol, who had witnessed her beating up her ex-boyfriend. Rooted to the spot, she couldn't believe someone could have such a dreamy appearance. In her mind, Hwang Jae-yeol was the main character in a sports drink ad. With his girlfriend since high school sitting on the back of his bicycle again, her face appeared. Encountering two incredibly handsome guys in succession, Bunny was convinced that continuing her education was divine guidance and tearing up the leave of absence form was the right decision. Meeting Hwang Jae-yeol again, who had just finished a design project with his roommate, they were relaxing, eating as they walked. Hwang Jae-yeol, being fed, almost lost his balance. Bunny, not seeing that he had steadied himself, rushed over to push him from behind in a misguided attempt to help, causing his tablet to fly out of his hands. Willing to pay for the damage, Bunny quietly asked if she could pay in installments after seeing the tablet was worth 2 million Korean won. Before Hwang Jae-yul could respond, she bowed in apology and tried to flee, but he grabbed her, insisting she leave her phone number. Feeling down, Bunny drowned her sorrows in alcohol at a sculpture department gathering. When Cha Ji-won entered and introduced himself as a returning student, Bunny realized he was actually her senior, embarrassed by her earlier boast of being his senior while showing him around. At that moment, a girl nearby informed Bunny that Cha Ji-won was the grandson of a wealthy family. Feeling embarrassed in front of Cha Ji-won, Bunny eagerly poured him a drink once he sat down. Noticing her discomfort, Cha Ji-won joked casually and mentioned that he doesn't drink, lightening the mood. Bunny then introduced herself. Hearing her name, Cha Ji-won recalled a sculpture he had seen in the library, particularly struck by a sculpture of a handsome man created by Bunny. As the party organizer asked the newcomers to toast, Cha Ji-won intended to refuse but was overwhelmed by the persistent urging. The crowd chanted his name, and he reluctantly picked up a glass, unsure of what to do. Bunny noticed his reluctance and stepped in to drink on his behalf. The party grew livelier, and Bunny became increasingly intoxicated. In a haze, she saw Hwang Jae-yul standing at the doorway watching her. It turned out Hwang Jae-yul and others were dining nearby. Upset about his tablet being broken by Bunny, he stepped out for air. Seeing Bunny drinking carelessly after her mistake angered him. Bunny, noticing his resentful mood, drunkenly ran out and held his face, claiming she had rushed over to protect his handsome face, asking where else she could find such attractiveness. Bunny moved closer, staring affectionately at Hwang Jae-yul. What could have been a romantic moment turned awkward as Bunny vomited on him. The next day, Bunny woke up embarrassed by the previous night's events, regretting not taking a leave of absence. As she arrived at school, an angry Hwang Jae-yul confronted her, prompting her to flee. She weaved through the crowd, nearly caught by Hwang Jae-yul, when she suddenly saw Cha Ji-won and hid behind him for protection. As Hwang Jae-yul stepped forward to pull her out, a drone came crashing towards them. Startled, Hwang Jae-yul dodged, and Cha Ji-won instinctively shifted aside. Bunny ducked to avoid the drone, grabbing Hwang Jae-yul's shirt in the chaos, causing both to fall in a close, ambiguous pose just as the drone burst a balloon, showering them with glitter, seemingly creating an atmosphere for their intimate moment. Bunny gazed dreamily at the handsome face so close to hers, lost in a romantic fantasy. Moments later, Bunny snapped out of it and pushed Hwang Jae-yul away, grabbing Cha Ji-won who was nearby and fleeing. She took Cha Ji-won to eat a special meal at the school, which was reserved for teachers. Thanks to her good relationship with the cafeteria lady, she was able to get these meals. Cha Ji-won enjoyed the meal thoroughly, finding his life much more interesting since meeting Bunny. He thought of Bunny as a treasure and wanted to spend more time with her. Passing by a sculpture of a handsome man that Bunny had carved, Cha Ji-won stopped to pose next to it, taking off his coat and asking Bunny if he resembled the sculpture. Bunny had always seen Cha Ji-won as a noble figure, detached from worldly concerns, but his playful act made her burst into laughter. They were about to go for coffee when Cha Ji-won received a call and had to leave hurriedly after saying goodbye. Bunny saw the caller ID labeled as First Love and mistakenly thought Cha Ji-won had a girlfriend. Right after Cha Ji-won left, Bunny received a call from Hwang Jae-yul, her creditor. She hung up to avoid him, but the next second, Hwang Jae-yul appeared behind her demanding she attend class with him to help take notes as payback for a damaged tablet. Bunny reluctantly took notes for one class and returned home exhausted, dreading the thought of continuing to help Hwang Jae-yul. She considered asking her father for money to clear her 2 million won debt, just as she received a call from her landlord asking for an increase in the rental deposit. With no other options, Bunny took a part-time job at a youth art exhibition to pay off the debt in installments. There, an artwork named Fate caught her eye, especially since she was a fan of the sculptor Jay. While engrossed in the artwork, a man struck up a conversation with her, pulling her out of her thoughts and asking for her opinion on the piece. Confidently sharing her views, the man was pleased with her response and invited her for coffee after work. Bunny arrived at the coffee shop on time, agreeing to meet him despite feeling a bit nervous. But being someone who is attracted to good looks, she couldn't resist when she saw his handsome face again, leaving all her reservations behind. The man introduced himself as Jo A-rang. They then started talking about Sculptor Jay. Bunny excitedly shared that Sculptor Jay would be giving a lecture at their school, and she was determined to attend. They had a lively conversation, and when parting, Jo A. Rang asked for her phone number. Bunny lay in bed later, reminiscing about Jo A. Rang's good looks and imagining him proposing to her with a huge diamond ring. Just as she was about to accept, the disruptive Hwang Jae-yeol showed up, demanding 2 million won. Bunny woke from this nightmare and quickly transferred the 200,000 won she had earned from her part-time job to Hwang Jae-yeol, vowing to pay off the remaining 1,800,000 won as soon as possible. The next day at school, Bunny saw Cha Ji-won lifting a girl in a wheelchair out of a car and mistakenly thought she was his first love. While Cha Ji-won was temporarily away, the girl in the wheelchair fell. Bunny rushed over and helped her back into the wheelchair, dirtying herself in the process. When Cha Ji-won returned, he sincerely thanked her, and Bunny learned that the girl was his sister, and the first love note referred to her. After saying goodbye to the siblings, Bunny went to help Hwang Jae-yeol with his notes as scheduled. Seeing her covered in mud, Hwang Jae-yeol removed his shirt and draped it over her, showing care despite his verbal disapproval. After class, Bunny quickly escaped and ran into a friend in the hallway who asked her to bring back an arm guard. Just as Bunny put on the arm guard, Hwang Jae-yeol came over and, thinking she was injured, expressed regret that he couldn't use her for note-taking. Bunny decided to pretend to be injured, fooling Hwang Jae-yeol. Later, during a mural painting event involving both the sculpture and art departments, Hwang Jae-yeol was unusually attentive, taking over tasks to let her recover. Bunny felt conflicted about revealing her deception, fearing Hwang Jae-yeol's anger once he discovered the truth. While she was pondering this, she saw Hwang Jae-yeol nearly fall from a chair and quickly supported him from behind. Once he steadied himself, he scrutinized her supposedly injured arm and immediately realized she had lied. Bunny reluctantly took the tool and finished the remaining work alone. After completing the task, she ran into Cha Ji-won. She complained to him about still owing Hwang Jae-yeol 1.8 million won and not knowing when she could pay it off. Just as Cha Ji-won was about to offer to help her with the debt, Bunny noticed a promotional poster on the wall. The school was hosting a strongman competition, with the first prize being the latest model tablet. Excitedly, Bunny dragged Cha Ji-won to the competition site. Cha Ji-won was skeptical of her strength. However, two friends were confident in Bunny. They explained to Cha Ji-won that Bunny was well known in the sculpture department for her strength. While other guys were panting after carrying 1 bag of cement, Bunny could carry 3. When it was Bunny's turn, she took a step back, swung her fist, and powerfully struck the punching bag, impressing everyone and beating all the competitors to win first place and the tablet. She immediately handed it over to Hwang Jae-yeol, settling the 2 million won debt completely. No longer needing to take notes for him, she was relieved of a big worry. Bunny and Cha Ji-won left laughing and talking. Watching them go, Hwang Jae-yeol felt a bitter sweetness in his heart. What he really wanted wasn't the tablet, but an excuse to be close to Bunny. Reluctant to cut ties with her, he hesitated for a long time before sending Bunny a message thanking her for helping him with notes. At that time, Bunny was dining with Cha Ji-won and 2 friends. Seeing Hwang Jae-yeol's message, she did not respond. Meanwhile, Hwang Jae-yeol was staring blankly at his tablet, distressed by not receiving a message from Bunny. He was worried that this might mean losing contact with her forever. The next day at a coffee shop, when Bunny walked past him without even a greeting and left straight away, he couldn't stand it. He followed her out to ask why she hadn't replied to his messages. Bunny bluntly stated that since she had paid off her debt, there was no reason for them to see each other again. Hwang Jae-yeol angrily declared that he didn't need to see her anymore and felt relieved. However, during class, Hwang Jae-yeol suffered from lovesickness, imagining Bunny everywhere around him. Each time he tried to approach what he thought was Bunny, he was snapped back to harsh reality, realizing he couldn't let go of her. He rushed out of the classroom. At the same time, Bunny was attending a lecture by the sculptor with Cha Ji-won. Excited to meet her idol, her emotions surged. As the curtain slowly opened, the sculptor was revealed to be Jo A. Rang, leaving her stunned. She was dazed throughout the lecture. Afterwards, Jo A. Rang walked with her around the campus, engaging her in lively conversation. Cha Ji-won followed behind, feeling neglected. When Jo A-rang reached out to remove a petal from Bunny's hair, Cha Ji-won felt uncomfortable. Just then, Hwang Jae-yeol suddenly shouted Bunny's name. He walked up to her as all three watched him approach. Hwang Jae-yeol realizes he has feelings for Bunny, and hurriedly goes to tell her that they can't keep their distance. Bunny is confused by his words. Hwang Jae-yeol quickly loses courage and makes up an excuse, claiming he hasn't gotten back the shirt he lent Bunny. Bunny quickly returns the shirt, understanding his intent. Now, Hwang Jae-yeol no longer has a reason to stay close to her. Fortunately, the school is holding an event, and Bunny and Hwang Jae-yeol, both student council members, are assigned to collaborate as leaders. After completing their tasks, everyone goes out for a group dinner where they play a game. Bunny and Hwang Jae-yeol, who lose, are cheered on to drink a cross-cupped toast. As they reluctantly stand up, Bunny is accidentally bumped by a waiter and falls into Hwang Jae-yeol's arms. His heart races from the closeness, but Bunny, not understanding the situation, pushes him away with her head. Both in pain, they sit down separately, and the toast is left unfinished. After the dinner, Hwang Jae-yeol waits with Bunny for her ride. Seeing a truck approaching, he quickly pulls her aside, causing her to be splashed by another passing car. Seeing Bunny's angry look, Hwang Jae-yeol feels defeated. Despite his intentions to please her, his attempts always seem to backfire. The next day in class, Bunny asks Cha Ji-won to model for her. Admiring her completed work, she remarks on the model's good looks, suggesting that any effort could turn into a masterpiece. Cha Ji-won, flattered, jokingly expresses confidence in his looks. During their conversation, Jo A-rang appears and praises Bunny's drawing skills. Bunny seizes the opportunity to ask Jo A-rang for a graduation interview, a task for the student council. Jo A-rang, who rarely gives interviews, agrees without hesitation because Bunny asked. Blushing from getting her idol's attention, suddenly, Jo A-rang steps closer and removes a petal from her hair, making her feel as if she's in a dream. Hwang Jae-yeol and his roommate witness the scene, mistaking Jo A-rang for petting Bunny's head. An ambiguous atmosphere hovered between them. Hwang Jae-yeol felt jealous, but had no right to take Bunny away. Bunny kept recalling Jo A-rang's smile and was defenseless against everything about him. Cha Ji-won noticed that Jo A-rang seemed to have romantic feelings for her. Bunny felt like she was still in a dream after her successful fan journey. Hwang Jae-yeol and his roommate's new studio was right next to Jo A-rang's. Jo A-rang offered a handshake to welcome the new neighbors, but Hwang Jae-yeol, filled with hostility, ignored Jo A-rang's extended hand. During the interview, Jo A-rang couldn't keep his eyes off Bunny, openly showing his interest even in public. Hwang Jae-yeol, seeing their exchanged glances, felt increasingly gloomy. During a break, two girls approached Jo A-rang with questions. As Bunny started to follow, Hwang Jae-yeol pulled her into his studio under the pretext of needing help. After the break, Hwang Jae-yeol went next door to find Jo A-rang and accidentally saw him caressing one of the girls' faces. He walked past, pretending not to see, and helped Jo A-rang remove his microphone, discovering that Jo A-rang had forgotten to turn it off during the break. As everyone tidied up the studio after the interview, only Bunny and Hwang Jae-yeol were left because the others were busy. Bunny was putting things away but couldn't reach a high box due to her height. Hwang Jae-yeol came over to help, inadvertently encircling her in his arms. The close contact and height difference created an ambiguous atmosphere. Hwang Jae-yeol couldn't take his eyes off her, making Bunny uncomfortable. She tried to escape his embrace and leave, but found the door wouldn't open. Hwang Jae-yeol also tried and failed to open it. Both took out their phones to call for help, but had no signal. While waiting for someone to pass by, Bunny told Hwang Jae-yeol a ghost story. He covered his ears, scared to listen. Bunny finally discovered Hwang Jae-yeol's weakness and teased him for being a coward. As time ticked by, Bunny felt unwell and needed to use the restroom. She tugged at Hwang Jae-yeol's clothes and looked at him pleadingly, hoping he would find a solution. Seeing her distress, Hwang Jae-yeol fetched a hammer from the toolbox and forcefully broke the door lock. After Bunny returned from the restroom, she noticed that Hwang Jae-yeol had accidentally injured his hand. She carefully applied a bandage to his wound, thanking him for stepping up for her. As their relationship eased, Hwang Jae-yeol advised her not to date Jo A-rang, claiming he wasn't a good choice. Bunny ignored his advice considering it rude to speak ill of someone behind their back. The next day, the model scheduled for the sculpture department had to cancel. Cha Ji-won offered to fill in, but Bunny immediately refused since he was also a sculpture student and shouldn't miss classes. At that moment, she saw Hwang Jae-yeol leaving the office and pulled him into the classroom to model instead. Hwang Jae-yeol unbuttoned his shirt and struck a handsome pose, captivating Bunny with his good looks and charm. She felt as if they were the protagonists of a romantic story who had fallen in love at first sight. Realizing she was getting carried away, Bunny quickly stopped her wandering thoughts, jokingly calling Hwang Jae-yeol not a hero, but a devil whose gaze she must not fall for. After the class, Bunny offered Hwang Jae-yeol a drink to thank him for his help. While they were still talking, she received a call from Jo A-rang, inviting her to his studio the next day. Remembering Jo A-rang flirting with another girl, Hwang Jae-yeol wanted to persuade Bunny not to go. Disliking his negative comments about Jo A-rang, Bunny bowed in thanks and returned to the classroom. Excited, Bunny arrived at Jo A-rang's studio and bumped into Hwang Jae-yeol at the door. Hwang Jae-yeol, unable to calm his mind, imagined Bunny and Jo A-rang in a romantic kiss. To disrupt their date, he deliberately set the delivery address to Jo A-rang's studio. At that moment, Jo A-rang was teaching Bunny how to sculpt, holding her hand. The romantic atmosphere was abruptly interrupted by the delivery person. Hwang Jae-yeol also took the chance to peek inside. Noticing Hwang Jae-yeol's antics, Jo A-rang took Bunny to the park for a date. Hwang Jae-yeol, anxious like an ant on a hot pan, wanted to find out if Jo A-rang was untrustworthy. He played back the recording from the microphone used during their interview day, hearing Jo A-rang speaking with a girl. Clenching his fist, he rushed to the park and grabbed Bunny's arm, demanding she go home. Without explanation, he forcefully pulled her away. Bunny struggled free and, confused, demanded to know why he suddenly appeared. Hwang Jae-yeol urgently expressed that Jo A-rang was not a good man and strongly opposed her dating him. In his desperation, he even blurted out a reminder of Bunny's past unfortunate relationships, urging her not to repeat her mistakes. Stung by his words, Bunny sternly warned Hwang Jae-yeol that her romantic choices were her own private business and had nothing to do with him, ordering him not to interfere further. Out of options, Hwang Jae-yeol approached Cha Ji-won, who was close to Bunny, and played him a key recording. In the recording, a girl who had spent the night at Jo A-rang's place eagerly asked if she could be his girlfriend. Jo A-rang dismissively said that spending the night meant nothing and promised a future commitment. Realizing Jo A-rang was still entangling with other women while also pursuing Bunny, they quickly discussed a strategy. Without letting Bunny know of Jo A-rang's true nature beforehand, they planned to separate the two, minimizing any harm to Bunny. Cha Ji-won immediately hired a private detective to investigate Jo A-rang's personal life and soon received photos of Jo A-rang being intimate with several girls. It was revealed that Jo A-rang had been using his status as a sculptor to deceive female college students emotionally. Cha Ji-won quickly called Bunny, only to learn that she was on her way to Jo A-rang's exhibition. Earlier, after arguing with Hwang Jae-yeol, Bunny had returned to find Jo A-rang, who was surprisingly still waiting for her. Feeling uneasy, she asked about their relationship. Jo A-rang's vague responses hinted that he did not casually invite people into his studio or date easily. Bunny, sensing ambiguity in his words, was delighted. The next day, Jo A-rang met Bunny near the school to go for coffee. As they were about to leave, a delivery rider nearly hit Bunny. Jo A-rang quickly pulled her into his arms and took her hand. Overjoyed, Bunny believed that holding hands confirmed their romantic relationship. The following day, carrying flowers, she headed to the exhibition. Unbeknownst to her, Cha Ji-won and Hwang Jae-yeol were frantically riding a scooter to the exhibition. At the exhibition, Bunny's shoe was stepped on. After fixing it in the restroom, she spotted Jo A-rang. Planning to surprise him, she followed him quietly. However, the surprise turned to shock as she witnessed Jo A-rang passionately kissing a student council girl. Her flowers dropped to the ground, alerting the kissing couple. At the same time, an out-of-breath Hwang Jae-yeol and Cha Ji-won arrived. They tried to take Bunny away, but she insisted on an explanation. She confronted Jo A-rang, angrily demanding to know why he deceived her and played such ambiguous games. Jo A-rang shamelessly responded that he had never intended to date her. She had misunderstood. After confirming that other student council girls were also deceived by Jo A-rang, Bunny was furious. She stormed into the exhibition hall and, in front of reporters and guests, dumped a bucket of ice over Jo A-rang's head. Cha Ji-won stayed behind to manage the aftermath, while Hwang Jae-yeol hurried Bunny outside. Once outside, Bunny could no longer hold back her tears and sat down crying. Hwang Jae-yeol quietly took off his jacket and covered her with it, giving her space to vent her emotions. Once she calmed down, Cha Ji-won drove her home, continuously telling jokes to cheer her up. Seeing her smile, Cha Ji-won breathed a sigh of relief. Later, news reports stated that the Wen Group, owned by Cha Ji-won's family, had withdrawn sponsorship from Jo A-rang. Photos of Jo A-rang with several victims also leaked, branding him as a pariah in the sculpture community. Meanwhile, a fully wrapped Hwang Jae-yeol rode a scooter and sprayed Jo A-rang with pepper spray, taking action to vent Bunny's frustrations. After joining forces to deal with the scoundrel, Hwang Jae-yeol and Cha Ji-won began to cautiously test each other's feelings for Bunny, seeing each other as rivals, though neither wanted to reveal their thoughts first. Unaware of their intentions, Bunny sincerely thanked Hwang Jae-yeol when they met at the student council, grateful that he had prevented her from being deceived. Hwang Jae-yeol was pleased with their now cordial relationship, though he couldn't tell if Bunny was truly over it or just putting on a brave face. One day, Bunny and Cha Ji-won enjoyed a special meal together. Coming out of the cafeteria, they saw Hwang Jae-yeol's team filming. Bunny admired Hwang Jae-yeol's serious and professional demeanor, finding herself unexpectedly attracted to him. As she was engrossed, the crowd suddenly grew dense. Cha Ji-won, concerned she might fall, took her hand and led her out. Hwang Jae-yeol saw this and felt a pang of jealousy. During a celebratory party by his team, Hwang Jae-yeol replayed that scene in his mind and drank to soothe his feelings. Drunkenly, he found Bunny's number in his contacts but lacked the courage to call. As he collapsed, a banner rolled down the stairs. He saw the school's name on it and helped roll it up. When he stood up to meet the person from upstairs, he was surprised to find Bunny. Thinking it was a hallucination from missing her too much, his thoughts drifted back. He had fallen for Bunny at first sight while she was painting. After his military service, he deliberately enrolled in the same school to be closer to her. They reconnected even though Bunny had a boyfriend at the time, and their relationship grew from there. Now, overwhelmed by jealousy and alcohol, Hwang Jae-yeol could no longer hide his love for her. Bunny imagined Hwang Jae-yeol kneeling with flowers and proposing to her after hearing his confession. She pictured herself in a white wedding dress, happily walking towards Hwang Jae-yeol. It was supposed to be a happy moment, but suddenly the police appeared, intending to arrest her for delusional infatuation. Bunny refused to admit guilt and asked Hwang Jae-yeol to prove her innocence, but his gentle face suddenly contorted, mocking her lack of worthiness to marry him. Bunny woke from this nightmare, feeling like she was overthinking it. Perhaps Hwang Jae-yeol was just drunk last night, and his confession meant nothing. The next day at school, Bunny felt awkward encountering Hwang Jae-yeol, who seemed to have forgotten his confession. She reminded him of his drunken antics and his confession. Expecting him to blame the alcohol, Bunny was surprised when Hwang Jae-yeol sincerely confessed his feelings for her. Confused by his words, Bunny found herself staring at him during a meeting, doubting his feelings and suspecting this as a new way for him to tease her. After class, Bunny went to the library and searched for a seat. Spotting Hwang Jae-yeol, who declined a seat offer from another boy and waved Bunny over, claiming he had saved the seat for her, Bunny couldn't understand his intentions and decided to confront him about what she did wrong. As Hwang Jae-yeol approached and gazed at her tenderly, urging her to think about why he treated her this way, the library suddenly lost power. An announcement instructed everyone to use the emergency stairs to evacuate. Amidst the confusion, someone bumped into Bunny, but Hwang Jae-yeol quickly pulled her close, allowing her to hold his hand as they descended the stairs. Hwang Jae-yeol wanted to spend more time with Bunny, suggesting a good place to study together. Being alone with him made Bunny uncomfortable, so she lied about wanting to go home to rest and said goodbye to Hwang Jae-yeol. Her roommates took her to study elsewhere and invited Cha Ji-won. As they arrived, they encountered Hwang Jae-yeol again, and Bunny felt embarrassed under his scrutinizing gaze. Huang Jieyol's roommate, carrying many bags, arrived hurriedly and insisted on having a barbecue party, canceling their study plans. At Huang Jieyol's studio, he affectionately adjusted Bunny's clothes in front of everyone. Cha Ji-won noticed Huang Jieyol's pursuit and Bunny's discomfort. He tried to help by offering Bunny some meat, but Huang Jieyol was quicker and placed the meat in front of Bunny first. Huang Jieyol was unhappy that Bunny called Cha Ji-won brother, but just referred to him formally as senior. Everyone sensed the tension between them. To change the subject, Bunny suggested getting drinks. Cha Ji-won stood up to go, and Huang Jieyol, not to be outdone, insisted on going with him. At the convenience store, Huang Jieyol, jealous that Cha Ji-won was always around Bunny, questioned if Cha Ji-won liked her. Cha Ji-won warned him to stop if he was just joking or teasing Bunny. Huang Jieyol seriously told Cha Ji-won that his feelings for Bunny were genuine. After their confrontation, they returned to the studio, only to see smoke billowing out as they approached the door, realizing Bunny might be in danger. They rushed inside. While they were gone, the barbecue smoke had triggered the smoke alarm. Water thrown on the grill by a roommate caused more smoke as it reacted with the oil, activating the sprinkler system and creating a mess. He quickly pulled her out and carefully checked that she was unharmed. Their roommates teased Bunny, noting how Huang Jieyol looked at her with rose-colored glasses, clearly having fallen for her. The next day, she noticed cold medicine on the table and remembered Huang Jieyol's advice from the night before to rest early, naturally assuming the medicine was from him. Unexpectedly, Huang Jieyol encountered his mother at school, walking with a professor. His mother, known for her frequent romantic changes, was now showing interest in his professor. Huang Jieyol pleaded with her to consider his feelings and avoid entanglements with people close to him. Instead, his mother accused him of hindering her happiness. Frustrated, Huang Jieyol revealed that she had kept him close as a child, only to obtain child support from his father, not out of love. His mother, upset by the accusation, parted from him angrily after a heated argument. Heartbroken, Huang Jieyol went to the studio to find Bunny. He remembered the first time he saw her, busy in the sculpture studio with her hair untied. Asking why she didn't tie her hair back, he noticed her hands covered in plaster and gently tied it up for her, filling the air with warmth. Bunny struggled to control her feelings. After tying her hair, she saw Huang Jieyol take out cold medicine from his bag, reminding her to take it on time. Bunny realized then that someone else had left the medicine earlier, and Huang Jieyol suspected Cha Ji-won. He held Bunny's hand, emphasizing that she should take the medicine he brought. During the midterm exams in the sculpture department, the teacher critiqued everyone's work. Bunny, usually at the top, received criticism that her work lacked passion. Disheartened and worried about losing her scholarship, Bunny didn't want to burden her parents with high tuition fees. Seeing her upset, Cha Ji-won took her to the river to clear her mind, reassuring her that her setback was temporary and that she could overcome it with effort. With Cha Ji-won's support, Bunny regained her confidence. Returning home and seeing the cold medicine on the table, she couldn't help but think of Huang Jieyol. She recalled the sweet moment when he did her hair, her face flushing and heart racing, realizing she had fallen for Huang Jieyol. The next day at school, she bumped into Huang Jieyol, and they chatted happily as they walked. A few steps later, they encountered Cha Ji-won. Cha Ji-won deliberately asked Bunny if she felt unwell after going to the riverbank the previous night. He reached out to check if she had a fever, but Huang Jieyol quickly covered Bunny's forehead, stopping him from touching her. The tense moment was interrupted by the sudden appearance of the senior broadcaster Summer, stunning everyone with her beauty, including Bunny. However, Summer walked straight up to Huang Jieyol and asked how he had been recently. Bunny witnessed her senior taking Huang Jieyol away and realized their relationship was extraordinary. She mocked herself for her wild thoughts, feeling that only a girl as outstanding as her senior deserved Jieyol. Despite her efforts to hide it, Cha Ji-won and her two roommates noticed her unusual behavior. One roommate accidentally found a photo of Huang Jieyol and the senior on the school website. Before Jieyol resumed his studies, the two had been a campus couple. The sweet photos of them together pained Bunny, distracting her during class and causing her to accidentally cut her hand. Cha Ji-won, feeling sorry for her injury, wanted to bandage it. Bunny forced a smile and explained that injuries are common in sculpture class and not to worry. After school, Bunny left alone, but was stopped by Huang Jiayol, who had also seen the online photo and was worried about Bunny's misunderstanding. However, seeing her, he didn't know where to start. Recalling Jiayol standing with the senior, Bunny felt even more upset and made an excuse to leave hastily. To help Bunny overcome her sadness, Cha Ji-won and his sister invited her to dine with them. Bunny introduced them to a type of bread they had never tried before, delighting them with the novel experience. Each interaction with Bunny brought new surprises, and Ji-won's sister noticed his affection for Bunny. Unnoticed by them, she captured a photo of them together. Unaware of the dinner, Huang Jiayol felt gloomy due to Bunny's recent coldness and pondered how to close the distance between them. While he was contemplating, he saw Bunny and Cha Ji-won walking side by side. Before he could greet them, a basketball flew towards Bunny. Jiayol quickly intercepted it, surpassing Cha Ji-won's reach, and scolded the basketball players for their carelessness, also mocking Cha Ji-won's slow reaction and inability to protect Bunny nearby. The situation escalated into a verbal argument among the three as they headed to the classroom, unnoticed by the basketball player who kept watching them. To earn money for materials, Bunny took a part-time job acting in a club project. Her roommate, who was supposed to accompany her, canceled last minute, and Jiayol immediately volunteered to team up with Bunny. The director, impressed by the attractive duo, cast them as a couple. During rehearsals, Huang Jiayol took the opportunity to clarify his past relationship with the senior to Bunny. He expressed disappointment that Bunny had never asked about it. Seeing Bunny stop and listen attentively, Jiayol earnestly stated that he had no ties with the senior anymore and hoped Bunny would not misunderstand. Bunny's heart, once silent, reignited with hope, and she did not reject Jiayol's hand. That day, as heavy rain fell, Jiayol took off his jacket to shield her, stirring deep emotions in Bunny. The rain unexpectedly soaked a prop painting, and Bunny volunteered to repair it, impressing Jiayol with her initiative. The next day, Jiayol invited Bunny to have spaghetti together, which she understood as a date invitation. After much internal conflict, she chose to trust Jiayol and accepted the invitation to meet alone. Back in the studio, a shy Bunny asked Cha Ji-won if having dinner alone with Jiayol counted as a date. Ji-won, noticing her anticipation for the date, felt a touch of sadness. As they neared completion of their project, Ji-won noticed lime on Bunny's nose, but she was unaware. As he moved closer to wipe it off, Jiayol's voice suddenly interrupted him, asking for a private talk with Ji-won. Jiayol questioned whether Ji-won was unaware of his feelings for Bunny, or was intentionally hiding them. Ji-won explained they were just friends. Jiayol, skeptical, returned Ji-won's lost wallet and warned him against ambiguous actions towards Bunny. Ji-won drove Bunny home, watching her cheerful figure as she got out of the car. He then looked at a photo of him and Bunny together in his wallet for a long time. Jiayol, remembering Ji-won getting close to Bunny, felt jealous. To capture Bunny's attention, he called her, arranging to meet at the subway entrance at 7 p.m. the next evening. Before hanging up, he heard Bunny call him brother, which thrilled him so much that he rolled around on his bed, eagerly anticipating their date. Bunny was equally joyful, believing they were entering a sweet phase of their relationship. However, this good mood did not last long, as the next day she saw the senior with Jiayol again. The senior wanted to talk alone with Huang Jiayol, but he coldly refused. During class, Jiayol's thoughts drifted back to years ago, when he was deeply in love with the senior. On his birthday, she suddenly asked for a break, leaving him confused. She bluntly told him that being with him felt terrible. After the cooling-off period, he wanted to mend their relationship, only to find out she had gone abroad to study without saying goodbye. 2 years later, Jiayol saw her on TV and thought their paths would never cross again, but she reappeared in his life. He snapped back to reality, ready for his date with Bunny, but was stopped by the senior outside the classroom. She asked him to have dinner with her, but Jiayol, unable to tolerate it anymore, reminded her that she was the one who left without saying goodbye, and he had no duty to wait. The senior claimed she never broke up and intended to return, but Jiayol refused to play word games. scolded her for being as capricious as before, and asked her not to contact him again. Unaware of their conflict, Bunny nervously waited for Jae-yul. When she saw him, she happily waved, but then saw the senior chasing after him. The senior, believing Jae-yul's anger meant he couldn't let go, stubbornly followed to confirm. Watching their entanglement, Bunny felt her heart chill rapidly, feeling like a clown interfering in someone else's relationship. To avoid further embarrassment, she turned and left in despair. Jae-yul saw this, decisively pulled away from the senior, ran to Bunny, and kissed her in front of the senior.